All right. Hello, everyone. I am your host, SunDej of the Manifesting Through Music Conference. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Jamaal, and he is a music attorney. So, Jamaal, I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself to everyone before we get started.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me today. As SunDej stated, my name is Jamaal Castang. I'm a music attorney located in the Alexandria, Virginia, DMV area. So I am the managing partner and owner of the law offices of Jamaal A Castang PLLC, located in Alexandria, Virginia. I represent major recording artists, Grammy Award-winning music producers. Also represent TV film producers, social media influencers, as well as actors. One of the things that I would probably also state is what kind of makes me a little bit different than other music attorneys is that I'm a Billboard charted music producer. I'm currently in the production team, the Profound Sounds. And so one of the things that I love doing when I practice law is my purpose is to make sure that whatever I do, it would be the same type of decision I would make for myself if I was my own client. Being that I was my first client when I first started practicing law or even wanting to be involved in the music industry.
I love that. So, can you tell us just a little bit more about how you started and how you got into the music industry?
Sure. So it's really a long, long story, but I guess to put it in a nutshell, how I got started in the music industry was watching family members that I have that are in the music industry, that are pretty known throughout, and being a competitive young kid and still a competitive person now, I wanted to do what they were doing, but I also wanted to make my own mark and create my own lane. And so I always wanted to be a lawyer ever since I was the age of 5. My mother helped me figure that out. And so when I got my first Billboard placement with the Profound Sounds, I initially then decided that was the time for me to go to law school. I had just graduated from Norfolk State University and was looking to figure out where and what lane I needed to go down to attend law school.
Okay, perfect. So, do you have any examples of or experiences that you've had that really informed how you decided to how you decided what type of representation you needed in the music industry with what you were doing?
Yeah, so I would say there was a myriad of examples. I remember when me and my production team just formed, we were all trying to figure out what our business model was going to be. We were in Chesapeake, Virginia. So we're in the Hampton Roads. It's 7 cities. And one of those cities is pretty known now because of Pharrell Williams, because of Missy Elliott, because of Timbaland, because of Teddy Riley. It's Virginia Beach. But by no means is the Hampton Roads or the 757 as is really known is, New York City. It's not NYC where you can walk down the street and stand right in front of the Universal Records store or company to hope to run into somebody, right? And there's not a lot of celebrities that are coming through there. So I was always trying to recruit basically, or just get the word out about us. And every once in a while we would come across situations where someone was wanting to present a contract, but it was a piecemeal contract, probably something they got off of Google, and I would read it. And mind you, I'm still a college student. I don't know everything at all. I haven't even scratched the surface of music law. And I would just read it every once in a while, and some of the language seemed kind of obvious that they wanted to either take advantage of us or they just weren't sure what they wanted to do. And so it wasn't until we got our first Billboard placement with Skills doing the 2010 wrap up where I was able to negotiate with him and talk with him about some of the things we wanted, which were just basic things. Wanted to get paid for it. I wanted to still own the rights to the beat. And so that happened. And right after that, I remember doing some research where I saw different things saying, hey, you want to have your own LLC, you want to have your own company when you're doing business. And so this was just a general rule that I saw. And so immediately when we got paid for the beat, that's when I initiated creating the LLC in the state of Virginia for our company, because we had planned on from then on, being a no music production team as well as a production company. And so that I found out was the seminal beginning piece of where I would start to realize, oh, okay, this is probably what everyone else is going through when they're starting, because not everyone has a lawyer down the street. I think the first lawyer I met just happened to be someone that I went to the office to ask, could I, ask them questions to figure out what it was like being a lawyer. So for me, that's one of the reasons why I practice the way I practice now, and trying to help others understand what is needed beforehand to make sure that they're pretty much in control of their own destiny every time they decide to make a decision, as well as make informed decisions to make sure that they have the right people around their team. I would say most certainly it's great to have a manager, it's great to have people around you that believe in your work, but you also need individuals who have the foresight and who know what steps and what lane to take when it's time for you to make that decision. So I would say that was pretty much like a real pivotal moment in my life before I ended up going to law school.
Thank you for sharing that. And I ask too because I feel like a lot of people don't even think about hiring an attorney until they're in a pickle, like they're in a tight situation to where they need one. Because for me, I wasn't in that situation, but I didn't know where to start. And so I had a family friend recommend um, a lawyer that he knew in when he was working in the police force. And when I sat down to talk with him, um, he was saying that he focuses on contract law. So even just the different types. I think that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about today. So can you share what you feel artists need to know before they even get into their start looking into contracts or working with an attorney, because a lot of times people don't even know where to start.
Right. So the first thing I would say is it is an action, but it's actually going to be an inaction. Do not listen to whatever the podcasts are saying about how bad the record industry is or how bad the music industry is. That's the first thing. It's one of the things I do. I mentor a lot of young Black men and women trying to get into higher education or law school, because they'll automatically start with, well, I saw this on Google and I saw someone say this and I saw they said that. They never know what they're talking about, because every situation is different and unique to every person that is encountering this one experience. After that, the next thing you want to do though is create your own LLC. Usually it's pretty easy and simple to do in your respective state. It does depend upon certain things that need to be taken care of on your own part. Of course, you could hire an attorney. I would say that it is not wanting to take money out of anyone's pockets, but I would say that you can create an LLC without the help of an attorney. Usually the state corporate commissions or the respective state corporate commissions have someone there to kind of guide you on what is needed and what's available. And then after that, I would say after the business piece is taken care of, right? Then you want to make sure at that point your music is taken care of. You're more than likely, a lot of individuals are at a place in their life where they're just starting out. The money is limited. They probably don't have a respective producer if they're an artist, or a respective artist if they're a producer that they relatively work with time in and time out. So there's a multitude of different ways to work with people, whether through Instagram, whether through websites like SoundClick or BeatStars. But after you get all of that situated, you then want to initially figure out, oh, okay, well, how do you want to present your business model? A lot of times people will do what they call leasing beats or leasing music to artists, and then artists, they're usually leasing those or receiving permission to use those songs. A lot of times you want to make sure that, you know, from a theoretical standpoint, you want to make sure you have the rights to that music. Sometimes that's not possible. It unfortunately sometimes it's not possible until you're offered a record deal. But that's what actually allows you the leverage going into those meetings with the big labels or the independent labels that want to sign someone, because ultimately you're going to have to hire an attorney to go and acquire the licenses, aka the permission to use that music, because essentially the record label wants to hire you, or rather sign you to have you on their label, but they need to have permission to use that music from all of these contributors to that one song. It could be a couple producers and an artist. You still need both of the producers' permission from the artist, or rather from the producer to the artist, to use that song, which then the label will want to use that song, right? And so that's where all of these different moving parts coming about. You don't always need to have millions and millions of dollars or hundreds and thousands of dollars up front when you're going to meet an attorney. I've had a few clients so far come to me, and they would tell me, when I asked them, hey, why didn't you have an attorney before? What happened with this last situation? And they said, I just didn't think I had enough going on to where an attorney was going to hire me. Or attorneys did tell them, yeah, sorry, I'm busy right now, just because they had other big money grabs going on. Essentially, me myself, I don't function from that place and work from that place. For one, I try to make sure that I'm accessible primarily to Black minorities in the creative business space, just because of the fact that hip hop is the number one genre, or has been the number one genre since 2017. If you look at commercials, I was looking at a commercial yesterday, and DoorDash was using Wu-Tang's Gravel Pit song from 2000 as the song, right? If you look at other commercials, now you have songs from the golden era of hip hop where they're using it as the background. So like everywhere you turn, it's hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, right? Or rap, 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 or R&B, R&B, R&B. And so that just shows you the power that's involved in the creativity that individuals are making at their home. After, you acquire the rights, and if someone does contact you and say, hey, I'm interested in a record deal, you want to seek out an attorney at that point. You want to interview attorneys. A lot of times people just start fielding lawyers and just start trying to send I guess like an invitation to the attorneys, or just look for anyone. You want to interview the attorney, find out how they think, find out how they work. Because at the end of the day, we're attorneys because we have clients. We're not attorneys because we're attorneys. That's how we're able to keep the doors open, keep the lights on. My approach to it all really is to make sure that my clients are educated. I've had experiences where I've talked to individuals within the business, like really big name people, and they've always said that they feel like lawyers are in cahoots with the labels a lot of times. And I won't necessarily disagree with that or agree with it. What I will say though is, I think if you have a lot more individuals like me who know what it feels like to be a producer, to feel like knows what it feels like to be a creative, they start to understand that there's just certain work that was put into the creation, where there's just certain things and certain morals and certain principles that you stand for and that you really want. And it can be a balance between the theoretical, besides what the book says, and then the practical, right? Like what happens in real life. For example, yes, it would be great to have all of the licenses for all the songs. But if you're an individual who works like I was working at Foot Locker part-time and in college, there's no way you have all of the money to pay producers who want $1,200, right? Or $500 a pop, and you're doing 6 records on an EP. Like no one has $3,000 just laying around, right? So it's things like that where there should be a balance when it comes to those things. I would probably also say at the same time, take a saying my cousin told me one time, not everything is as good as someone says it is, and it's not as bad as someone says it is, right? The same thing with the labels. I'm not going to vilify them, and I'm not going to defend them, but I've never been to a store, I've never been to a car dealership, I've never been anywhere where someone said, I'm gonna give you everything you want and more, like you deserve it, right? Like it's always been, I had to do my research on what's cheaper. Is it over at Best Buy, Target, wherever? Or, hey, I saw that this car was being sold here for this price and I can get the same model or better. Can you give me this price? There's some accountability that has to be had on your end, because no one is going to do everything for you. You want to be the one to determine what your future is going to be like. But at the same time, just because you are ignorant in an area is not an invitation for others to take advantage of you either. So, it's that give or take that I would say that you want, things that you want to do to prepare yourself, that's what you should do. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to attorneys ahead of time, actually, just to kind of get a consultation, just to kind of understand what the lay of the land is going to be for you and what to do. So.
Okay, yeah, I really appreciate what you said about having accountability and lack of knowledge, because I agree. I think that we have to do our own research and get a second, third, sometimes fourth and fifth opinion. So, can you talk to us a little bit more about purchasing options, since are a producer? I know I've heard of leasing options and exclusive options. Can you just tell us about some of those options and the differences between them when it comes to artists getting beats from producers?
Yeah, so I would say from just looking at it from the artist perspective, so that's really someone that's on the opposite end of where I started, because I was starting as a producer. If I was an artist, um, I want to, there's language that is used that doesn't mean what it sounds like. So when someone says they want to lease a beat from a producer, in a way is pretty much impossible to do that, because you either acquire the rights to use the song or you don't. And you'll always have the rights to acquire it if you have a contract. You'll also hear people say, I want to buy the beat outright. That's also not good for the producer, and it may be okay for the artist, but you want a situation where everyone is able to eat from what they created and what they've done. So starting with the lease piece, really there's 5 ways that an artist and or producer gets paid. Is from what you call an advance. That's what you usually hear people say is the upfront money. So that's the money that's automatically in your hand. That's recouped, not refundable, but recoupable, meaning every time the money is made from the person or entity that paid the advance, every time money is made from the work that you two or 2 or more people are working on, that money is then put in a pot, but goes to that entity that paid the advance. So if it's $1,000 that was paid, then you won't receive any royalties until the $1,000 is made up from the percentage that was decided upon, for the royalties, right? So you have the advance, and then the second thing is the producer royalty or the artist royalty. That's the percentage based upon the master. The master is the song that you hear on the radio, that you hear on the commercials, that you buy on the CD. That is the master. It's the actual song. So just say, for example, if album is selling for $10, or a song rather is selling for $1, and the artist royalty is 20%, that's 20 cents that the artist is getting per song sold. But then out of that artist royalty, the artist has to share the producer royalty out of it. It's called all in. All in means that every party that is a part of this one song gets paid out of that artist's royalty. I like to equate it to a business share, essentially. Like this song is a business, and the artist is getting a share, has their share of a business, and then they're selling their share to other investors or other people or parties that are involved in this song. So
Mm-hmm.
usually it's 2 or 3%. And they're usually the producer royalty is usually 2 to 3%. And so let's just say it's 2 cents. So that means that the artist is really getting 18 cents per song at that point, and the producer is getting 2%, which is 2 cents per song.
Yeah.
So uh those percentages will make up the advance, or allow the recoupment of the advance to go back to the entity, which is usually the record label, to
Mm-hmm.
pay it, right? Then that's the royalty for the master. Then now you're crossing over into the publishing side, which is the sound composition. That is the words or the beat for the song. So if an artist wrote some of the words on it and a producer wrote some of the words or just made the beat, now we're stepping into the publishing side. So the third way that they get paid is the mechanical royalties. The rate is equivalent to like what you would call minimum wage. You know
Mm-hmm.
how like your state government or the federal government has already figured out how much the minimum wage is going to be, whether it's like $9 an hour or whatever. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing for the mechanical royalties for this, what they call the statutory rate. And so it was 9.1 cents. Now it's 12.1 cents. So this is whenever the song is streamed or downloaded. That's how much is made off of the music that's being played every time we're downloaded. So the producer or whoever wrote on the song, they're receiving 12.1 cents for every stream. So what is it? A million streams or a million purchases would give you 120 or $121,000. But the percentage of the publishing split would dictate of that $121,000 what you're getting. So if your publishing split is 25% or publishing split is 50% or whatever, then that's how it's divvied up based upon what your split is. That's the mechanical royalties, but then the fourth way is the performance royalties. That is when your song is played publicly on the radio, played at a concert, played at the bowling alley, at the mall, anywhere, is for public consumption. That is where you have your performance, your societies like ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. There's a rate that they already pay out at, and based upon your publishing split, you get paid that from directly. It's called direct monies. You get paid directly from ASCAP or BMI or CSAC, not from the artist, not from the label or anywhere else. And then the last one, the fifth way, is sound exchange. So these are the digital royalties when your song is played on Sirius XM, when your song is played on Pandora. That's why they always ask on Pandora, are you still listening? Right? Because if you're not listening, then they're trying to stop you from listening so they could stop paying. So that's based upon the artist royalty or the producer royalty. That percentage is based upon what that agreement has stated on what the royalty percentage is going to be for that respective party. And so that the reason why I mention all that and take you all through a quick, music law 101 is that when you're trying to lease, you still have to divvy all of that up and explain that. There is an easier way, which is called net receipts. Instead of doing a 3% or artist royalty percentage, instead now you figure if it's me and SunDej doing an agreement for a song I produced for her to rap or sing on, it's only us that is divvying up the 100% of whatever comes in. So at that point, the equivalent of a 3% producer royalty would really be like 16.5%. So I would get 16.5% of the 100% because you're probably more than likely paying for the studio time, paying for the song to get recorded and mixed, paying for the TuneCore fee or DistroKid or wherever, right? You're paying for all this stuff. You're the label. You're the one that's furnishing the music. I would get 16% or 17 or whatever to lock in what I'm owed as a fee for the money I made. After you take off whatever you need to take off the top, the net receipts would be the money that's left over. I would get 16% of that. In the event that you get a record deal, major record deal, it would then be lowered to 3%, or 2% or whatever we come up with, just because if your artist royalty is 20% and I'm getting 16.5%, you're pretty much going to be broke every time, right? Plus, there's somebody else that is involved at the table. Now it's the major label at the table. It's not just two people at the table. There's a third party involved. So I would say that it's why you want to come up with an agreement. BeatStars doesn't figure that out. SoundClick doesn't figure that out. If you look at the terms, it's just telling you, hey, you can only play it for this many times. You can't have a music video for this long. Like the producer agreement is what you want to create or have drafted, and that lays all of it out. That the artist owns the master, the label owns the master, that the producer still retains the publishing rights and their rights to the song. How much everyone is going to get paid, what mechanical royalties are going to be paid. All of this is laid out. You also want to stay away from saying I want to own the beat outright, because within the producer agreement, it's going to stipulate that, hey, this one song that you're buying from me is going to be exclusive to you for 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, whatever have you, right? You can always play with different clauses in agreements, but you never want to agree to, especially as a producer, you never want to agree to your stuff just being bought outright, because what would that mean? Would that mean that don't get any royalties? Would that mean that I get certain royalties, but I don't have rights to claim to the beat? There's just so many different things that come about and get involved where, in the end, some people may be upset, even though that wasn't your intention, when you were trying to come up with an agreement to make sure that you have all of the licenses necessary, so that when you are negotiating your ultimate agreement of having a record deal, you don't have anything to worry about, or there isn't too many lawyer fees and costs that you have to pay to tie up some loose ends on the back end while you're working towards the agreement. So.
Okay, so much good information. Before we wrap things up though, can you just tell everyone about, I guess, from beginning to end, what that process would look like for them connecting with you, like from the first point of contact to having the contract looked over or sent out to whatever parties needed? Like, what does that process look like for contacting you and maybe sitting down with you to have a consultation and all of that before they get their works out into the world?
Yeah. So first, the best way to contact me is by my email, jcastang, JCASTANG at jacklawfirm.com, JACLAWFIRM.com. It's usually someone will reach out via email, and you could easily just say, hey, I have X situation coming up, and was either referred or saw your information and wanted to kind of figure out what the next steps are going to be. Usually we'll set up a meeting, and depending upon what stage that individual is at, it will dictate what the next steps are and how much further we have to go. The one thing I try to do first is find out what the individual's passion is and what they want to do, what they're looking to do. Then I figure out how I can supplement that, how I can add on to that. Me personally, I feel like every relationship, no matter if it's an intimate or romantic relationship, friendship, business, personal, whatever, it should be symbiotic. So your lawyers should not just be receiving money every time you work. Like, there should be something that the lawyers is adding to the to your situation. If they know some other individuals that can help your creativity, that could create another business situation, why not, right? The lawyer is still getting paid. So and you're getting paid. Our fees are pretty much fixed. Your fees aren't. So the more you get paid, it actually incentivizes, if you think about it, the lawyer to want to bring more business your way to begin with. I try to also educate, find out, pick and prod, like, what is it that you do know and don't know, so that you are aware, because I like to collaborate with the client more so than just lawyer the client. For one, it helps because the more you know, the less headaches will be coming your way. and the less cleanup and more money you have to pay for me to do, because you weren't able to make informed decisions at the time. I would probably say what it also looks like contacting me is that now it's a thing of you kind of letting go and letting someone else work. I think that's like the hardest part for someone to hire an attorney, because you figure the first 18 years of our lives, or 17 years, we're pushing to get to 18 so no one can tell us what to do because we're an adult, right? And then you probably should find out at some point throughout the rest of your adult life, you don't know what you're doing just because you're an adult. Like it's always an experience every single day until the day is your time to pass away. So that's probably the first thing I would say to people, is that you have to be willing and learn how to let go, because you won't be in the meeting sitting down talking to someone about what the terms and conditions are going to be on an agreement. You'll be sitting down with the lawyer, but you won't be in the meeting. You will not be on the call. Sometimes you'll see emails every once in a while, but it's pretty much someone else is handling the duties while you're sitting and waiting. I would probably also say, you know, it is best and probably a great thing to know that you don't have to be the bad guy. The lawyer gets to be the bad guy. Like, I get to be the bad guy. I'm the one that gets to tell someone no. I'm the one that gets to sit there and listen to probably an insulting offer. All right. But you don't need to, nor do you get to sit there and deal with that. It's more so a thing of trusting that someone knows what they're doing. But the one thing I'd probably leave everyone with is what, after talking about what it looks like reaching out to me, is your relationship with the client is similar. An example I like to use is similar to someone in a dark cave and they have a flashlight. They turn the flashlight on. If someone's in a dark cave, they're usually trying to get out, right? And they're, flashing around moving around the flashlight, trying to figure out where they are and how to get out. The reason why that's similar to a lawyer-client relationship is because it's a principal-agent relationship. The principal decides what goes on and guides. The agent just kind of gives advice and recommendations on it, but they answer to the principal. So the lawyer is the flashlight. The client is the individual in the dark cave. The dark cave is the problem or issue or matter that you're dealing with. As you move around the flashlight is showing you different things. The lawyer is going to give you advice and recommendations on what is going on from what they see and what you tell them. And you telling them what the problem and issue is similar to the person that's pointing the flashlight in certain directions. I always like to tell people, because the word recommendation, was used a lot in the past 3 years because of COVID. No one gives a recommendation just to hear themselves talk, right? Like, a recommendation is given because there's a reason why. And so I always say I don't give a recommendation to hear myself talk. Like, I know what my voice sounds like. I could easily go to one of my reference tracks that I've written for other people. I'm telling you because I know what typically the outcome tends to be and why it's not a good decision to make going this direction. So, I would say all that to say, understand your role, but understand that you have a voice and that you can say something and speak up. Like, it's still your life, it's still your money, it's still your situation. So.
Yes, this was so good. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us today. I learned so much, so I know the people watching are going to learn more too. And if I know you said there's your email. I guess really quickly too, before we wrap up, can you give anyone watching like an idea of what a budget should look like when they are approaching the idea of working with an attorney, whether it's for like maybe looking over a split sheet,
Mhm.
or something like that, to something more elaborate or more long term, like to have someone on hand to uh, that they can ask questions throughout their process, whether independent or working with a label?
Yeah,
Oh,
most definitely. Well, yeah, most definitely. I would say first you want to reach out to the attorney because you don't know. The attorney could be like someone like me, where if it's something small, they're probably not even charging, right? But there are fees and fee arrangements in the way that attorneys charge. We charge by hourly, a fixed rate, or a fixed rate would be like a percentage, so to speak. Or it would be contingent. So hourly, you could see an hourly anywhere from $300 to $600, depending on the firm and how much they charge. That's one fee arrangement. A lot of times in music, the attorneys will be paid on the back end, nothing on the front end. The back end meaning when the contract is negotiated and finished, the already prearranged percentage, which is usually 5%, 5% of the agreement negotiated will be paid to the attorney. And whatever money you receive from the agreement, that you receive from the agreement, you could then use that money to then pay the attorney for all of the previous work that they had done to help you enter into the recording agreement, instead of you having to have the money all up front, right? And then you do have situations, I mentioned the 5%, you have situations where if the attorney is able to find a deal for you instead and bring a deal to you, they would receive 10% of the gross revenue of the agreement that's negotiated by them. And so there's different fee arrangements, there's different situations that could happen. There's free consultations. Again, it's not really a thing where you want to make sure that you have all of this money to put forth, because when you do that, it kind of prevents you, inhibits you from being able to find out what the possibilities are there. So I would always say ask first, like ask what is the situation and tell what your situation is, because usually the attorneys will figure out how to work with you or figure out what's there.
okay. And then lastly, is there whether it's your website, where can we listen to some of the music that you have produced
Oh
or are
man.
working on? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's iTunes, Apple Music. My production team, we produced the EP called The Profound Sound Sounds Profound to Me, Volume 1 on Apple Music, Spotify, pretty much where all streams are streaming, where you can stream music. We co-produce No Malice's from the Clips, No Malice's second album, Let the Dead Bury the Dead. Produced five songs on there. Also Apple Music and anywhere where you can stream music. The SoundCloud as well, The Profound Sounds. Um, yeah, so pretty much any and everywhere you could find us, wherever there's streaming services, you could find us there.
Okay. Thank you again so much, Jamaal. Thank you to everyone who is able to watch from beginning to end. And make sure, if you haven't already, to register at the link in my bio if you haven't, so you can check out all the other speakers. There's a total of 21 speakers in this conference, and we're covering all bases. So thank you again. Oh,
And
and one last thing. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
one last thing I probably should have mentioned as well. Another great way to get to my production team as well as me is through Instagram. So my
Okay. Yeah.
Instagram is your lawyer and producer, your underscore lawyer underscore and producer. And then also Instagram, Profound Sounds. You can find us on there as well.
Okay. And I'll also make a list. So at the end of the conference, I'll have a list of all the contact information for each speaker. So if you didn't catch that, make sure you stay tuned until the end, and I'll have a resource list for everyone to check out the speakers as well. So thank you again and have a great day.
Thank you.